Hey everyone, and welcome to the second video of my series. This one's going to be a short one, as I'm just going to prepare you into getting into the modeling deal. So it might be only like 10 minutes, no music, nothing like that. So, different wallpaper. I've actually got them on a cycle with a whole bunch of different pyro wallpapers. So, let's get into what we need to do. First of all, these are the programs you need to have on your computer in order to get started. The first thing is GCFscape that you can find on NIM's website, which is nemesis.thewavelength.net. I will put all of these links in the description below, so make sure to check that out. What GCFscape does is allow you to open up the GCF files that Valve provides you, and you can explore them to find different items in there, different hats, and you can actually open and explore the models and textures that they have in there. Of course, you can't really just open them and look at them as is, because Valve has a specific file format they use for Team Fortress 2 and Half-Life 2 and all that. So in order to effectively use these items, I also would recommend getting the model decompiler fixed version. Now, there are two different versions. You've got the model decompiler and you've got the model decompiler fixed, which you can find on Game Banana. I use fixed primarily because, as the name states, it's definitely a better version that fixes a lot of the problems the old one had. I had multiple problems with the old one constantly. It wouldn't always decompile. It would ask for this or that, or present bugs or errors, and you couldn't have certain boxes checked off, and this one fixes all of those problems. You just choose the output folder in the input files, and it'll do all the work for you. Pretty much no problems whatsoever. It used to be like where it says down here, you used to have to go manually into the .mdl files and change the text idst0 to idst comma before you can actually use the decompiler. That's automatically done in this fixed version of the decompiler, so it's no diving into code that you don't really want to have to look at. You can find that on the Game Banana site. Again, I'll have the link in the description below. I might actually have an annotation somewhere, so you might want to look for that as well. After you get that, and I recommend having shortcuts to all of these because you'll install them and you want to have a shortcut to them in your main working directory, just so it's easy to find. But after that, you need to make sure you have Blender. Blender is going to be the primary platform we're going to be using in order to do our modeling. You have various modeling platforms. You've got Blender, of course. You have, oh man, I'm losing exactly what I wanted to say here. All of these, Blender's the free version. You don't have to pay any money for it. Forget those other versions. I don't even care anymore. I would recommend getting Blender. It's very easy to use. They have a lot of tutorials online, but I will be doing a small tutorial on what you need to be doing in order to use Blender effectively. It's only going to be a couple things here and there that I'll teach you, but it'll be enough to where you can get started to make an item, which is extremely nice. I'll dive right in and help you guys out with that. However, when you decompile the items, you'll get something called a .smd. Blender doesn't like .smds, so in order to get Blender to support these files, you can go to the Valve Software Developer Wiki, which is probably one of the best little wikis out there. It's Valve created, Valve maintained, and Valve pretty much goes in and edits all of it, so that way we can all use the resources they give us. It teaches you what every little thing on all files and everything does. It's extremely nice. And they have provided something called the Blender SMD tools. And you can download the script, which will be applied to Blender. It has all of the installation instructions right here. So you'll open Blender, File, User Preferences, go to the Add-ons tab, and install the add-on. And then just enable it by clicking on the box. And it's extremely nice. They made it themselves, and it works just as the name describes. It'll automatically compile the QC. It'll have you can export and import .smds. basically it's everything you need to work with these items. So make sure you get that installed. Um, Immediately after that, you want to go back to NIM's website for NIM's tools and download VTF Edit. VTF Edit is a very nice program. It allows you to import and export VTF and VMT files, which are used to edit the textures, both the texture files and the actual texture. The texture files in this case are the VMTs, and the VMTs allow you to change how colors work, how the transparency is shown, how shiny everything is using a fog mask, all of these different things. It is extremely convenient. It allows you to also import .tgas or .pngs into the program to export as VTFs, which will be your texture on your item. It will allow you to color your item and make things look quite a bit nicer than just having a gray blob in the Team Fortress 2 game. So make sure you get VTF Edit. Again, just like GCFscape and Model Decompiler, you need to have a shortcut to these, so that way you can easily access them without having to go start programs, la-di-da-di-da. Or in my case, I actually have multiple hard drives in my computer, and I have all of my developer tools on one of them, so I need to have shortcuts so that way I can get to them pretty easily. One thing I forgot, the Model Decompiler has to go in your preferences, your SDK tools, which is one thing I wanted to bring up. You want to make sure you download the source SDK right here. I would also recommend downloading the base 2006 and 2007. It helps. You don't have to, but the main thing you need is the source SDK. They update it quite frequently, and it allows you to access some of the tools that Valve brings up themselves. One of the main things is the model viewer, and Hammer. Hammer allows you to edit maps. The model viewer allows you to import player models and weapon models, as well as hat models, if you're into that sort of thing, into the viewer and see them as they would be seen in game. This is basically how I check my models without having to open Team Fortress 2 every 3 seconds to do some bug fixes or texture fixes. It allows you to see it from all angles. It works stupendously. But you want to make sure that you go into the source SDK file here and install it into your bin, episode 1 bin folder. As you can see, I have the Model Decompiler fixed right here, and it works again just as the Model Decompiler should. That's the old one that I used to use, but it had a whole bunch of problems with it. I left it here because I'm too lazy to bring it out, but it still works. I just don't like it as much. I use the Model Decompiler fix now. So it's source SDK bin episode 1 bin. That's where you put it in. In fact, that's where you also have to put the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is the GUI Studio model. That allows you to compile all of your models from Blender into a working Team Fortress 2 weapon or hat model. You have to have a QC file in order to do that, and the QC file I'll go over a little bit later when we get into compiling our flare gun model. The GUI Studio model you can find at the wonderboy.org website. It's updated not very frequently, but it works just at the most basic levels. It gives you errors that are very informative, which is more than you can say from a lot of compilers. And it overall is just a great working program. You need to have this in order to get your finished Blender SMD files into the .mdl files that you will be using in Team Fortress 2. It also creates a lot of the other files you need as well. I don't really want to go into those, so let's not do that. But anyway, these are the programs you need: GCFscape, Model Decompiler, Blender, the Blender SMD tools, VTF Edit, and the GUI Studio model, as well as Valve's very own source SDK. If you get all of those, then you will be prepared to start modeling. You can also grab a couple other things here and there, like you can use GIMP for your modeling, but if you did what I did earlier and sketched out your model, then you wouldn't have to really need GIMP or Photoshop. But that's how you edit your textures. You need GIMP or Photoshop in order to edit your textures. You can use things like Paint.net, but it's not as good. I have been using GIMP for quite a while, but I've recently switched to Photoshop, primarily because Photoshop handles transparency and normal maps a lot better than GIMP does. The GIMP, I know how to do it, but it takes a lot of time and effort just to get a single thing done, and I do not like that about it. But it is slowly becoming more and more like Photoshop as time goes on, so it's not a not a far-fetched wish to hope that it gets to that state. So with that, I will say thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you will be ready to start modeling during our next video.